Before he wrestled with the fate of a nation, he wrestled with men.
And you know, the legend of Abraham Lincoln the wrestler, it is almost unbelievable. I mean, 300 wins and only one loss? You have to ask, is this incredible story actually true? So let's separate the man from the myth. Okay, so to really get this, we have to go back, way back. Our story doesn't start in some modern arena. Nope. It begins in the rugged American frontier of the early 19th century, and this is where a young Lincoln's incredible strength was forged. I mean, from the time he was just a boy, Lincoln was doing seriously hard physical work. We're talking splitting logs, clearing land, that kind of stuff. And it gave him this powerful, lean build. Plus, the guy was 6'4". He towered over pretty much everyone, and you can bet he quickly got a reputation for just raw strength. But, you know, the style of wrestling he did, it was every bit as rugged as the life he lived. So he wrestled in a style they called catch as catch can. And you have to understand, this wasn't like the wrestling we see today. It wasn't about pins or points. Not at all. It was a pretty brutal contest of pure, unadulterated strength with one simple goal: throw your opponent to the ground by any hold you could possibly get. And this right here, this really paints a picture of just how brutal this sport was. I mean, just try to imagine it. These fights were happening barefoot, on grass, or just plain dirt. There were no weight classes, no official referees. And tactics that would get you instantly disqualified today, we're talking foot stomping, even hair pulling. That was all just part of the game. So yeah, this was the proving ground where Lincoln's reputation was going to be made. And it all came to a head in one small Illinois town. Okay, so the year is 1831. Lincoln is the new guy in a town called New Salem. And his boss, a guy named Denton Offutt, just could not stop bragging about him. He's telling everyone that young Abe could out-wrestle and out-fight anybody around. Well, when you talk like that, eventually someone's going to call you on it, and that boast led to a direct challenge from the leader of the local gang of toughs. And just like that, the challenge was on. Lincoln was set to go up against Jack Armstrong, the formidable leader of the notorious Clary's Grove Boys. Now, you have to realize this was way more than just a friendly match. It was a public test of character, and you better believe the whole town turned out to see who was going to come out on top. People who saw this fight, they remembered it vividly for the rest of their lives. Apparently, after a really tense struggle, Lincoln used that incredible height and reach of his to finally get a good hold on Armstrong. And one eyewitness account says he just lifted him up, shook him like a rag, and then slammed him right to the ground. Wow. So what happens next is amazing. Armstrong immediately conceded. He knew he was beat. And from that day on, he and the whole Clary's Grove Boys crew became some of Lincoln's most loyal supporters. This one victory absolutely cemented Lincoln's status as a respected leader there. In fact, his future law partner, John T. Stewart, called the match the turning point in Lincoln's life. So yeah, this single contest really helped define his future. But, and this is a big but, the story of the invincible, undefeated champion, well, that isn't the whole truth. See, there is another part to this story. Just a year later, Lincoln's serving as a volunteer captain in the Black Hawk War, and he ends up facing another champion wrestler, a guy named Lorenzo Thompson. And this match, well, it was different. Thompson was a powerhouse in his own right. It was a best 2 out of 3 falls match. In the first fall, Thompson throws Lincoln and throws him hard. Lincoln battles back, wins the second fall, but in that final, decisive third fall, Thompson puts him on the ground again. And as far as anyone can tell, this is his only documented defeat. But what Lincoln did next is maybe even more telling than his famous victory over Armstrong. He didn't make a single excuse. He stood right up, acknowledged he'd been beaten fair and square, and told his men to pay up on their bets. He just admitted that Thompson was the better man that day. In fact, he said he was strong enough to whip a grizzly bear. So yeah, that whole 301-0 record, that's almost certainly folklore. The real story of this powerful victory and an equally honest defeat, well, that's way more compelling, don't you think? So you've got this reputation now, right, for both incredible physical strength and this unwavering personal integrity. And that combination became an absolutely vital asset when Lincoln entered a much, much tougher arena, politics. And believe me, his history on the wrestling grounds followed him for his entire career. His big political rival, Stephen Douglas, he tried to mock it, calling it an amusing passage. But Lincoln supporters, Oh, they leaned right into it. They used his wrestling exploits in their campaign materials to build this image of a strong, self-made man of the people, somebody who was tough enough for any challenge. And that legacy is so enduring that, get this, in 1992, he was officially inducted into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame as an outstanding American. When you really think about it, the image of Lincoln the wrestler perfectly captured his whole public persona. He was seen as this gentle giant, right? A man of deep principle and honesty, but at the same time, someone who had that raw frontier strength you'd need to wrestle with the absolutely monumental challenges that were facing a divided nation. It's this forgotten chapter of his life that was so essential in shaping the leader he would become. And it just goes to prove that sometimes our greatest strengths are forged long, long before we ever step onto the world stage. So that leads me to a question for you. What other hidden skills of famous leaders do you think shaped their futures? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this explainer. If you found it interesting, we'd really appreciate it if you'd consider liking and subscribing to the channel for more. We'll see you next time.